Happy Halloween, everybody. It's Romania Black, or the week after Halloween if you're watching on YouTube. But yeah, so Death Note, right? I was really excited. This came in the mail the other day. I had saw this online. I don't usually buy things online, but I've been looking for I've been wanting Death Note merchandise, like apparel, but I don't want to look online because I'm afraid of spoilers. So I saw just like an ad running this Misa sweater and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I saw that L is on the sleeve and I was like, no, I have to have it. Especially after episode 25. So I actually ordered this around the time episode 24 was airing. I ordered this and it just came in and I was like, yes. So yeah. I'm pretty excited to wear black and also don Misa and L for Halloween because, yeah, I felt kind of bad. I mean, obviously I feel bad for L because he's deceased, but I felt kind of bad for Misa in the last episode. Just a wee bit. I've got lots of comments from the last several episodes. I took a little bit of time off after episode 28 because I was out of town and I wanted to have some comments catch up. So I have some comments to go over before we start this episode and to talk about, but man, and I just watched the English dub of this episode. We'll talk about it at the end here, but yeah, so just going over some real quick comments before we start this episode. Things are kind of heating up. There's been a big comment about Light killing L and if it was fair that he was able to use Rim as like a supernatural trump card. And yeah, in the end, Light had to rely on Rim, but you know, it was a resource that was at his disposal, sadly, right? But I've been told several times through the comments, and it's just now dawning on me, and that I haven't talked about it. But yeah, there are actually 4 notebooks right now roaming around. So it was brought to my attention that the notebook Daddy Yagami gave to Mello was in fact the notebook that was originally Rim's. So Aaron Karako actually brought this up first. The idea that Light picked up Rim's notebook. I completely forgot about it. So I'm glad y'all mentioned it. I completely forgot that he picked up Rim's notebook and that it's a usable notebook. And I was like, oh, I always forget about Ryuk's notebook, his actual notebook, because he never uses it. And it's just there. And I don't think there's any way for Light to get a hold of it. So I always forget it as part of the 4. But yeah, Mr. Tall Black, super tall black man, commented basically that there are 4 death notes at this point in the actual human world. We have Ryuk's that's on his side and that isn't really used. We have the one that Ryuk dropped in the human world that this creepy Shinigami is after, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But that's the one that was in the police custody, that was at the Yagami household, and now Mello has it. So there's that one. That was the one that Light originally had. Misa's is still buried under the tree as far as we know. It's Misa's notebook, but she still has it buried. I assume, but she dug it up, right? She dug it up, but I guess she reburied it, so it's still there. And the one that Misa's been using to kill all the Japanese criminals is the one that was Rim's, which is kind of sad that Misa's using Rim's death note to kill all these criminals for Light. And Light really doesn't have his own death note that he's using now, but he has the piece of paper on the watch that Misa has seen that he has access to. So there is that. So thank you for noting that. Also, super tall black man noted that Misa kind of had shown interest at the very beginning of us being introduced to her, that she was interested in killing off Rim because she was like, oh, that's how you kill a Shinigami. Well, do you love me, Rim? And Rim was like, no, but we find out she does. So yeah, I guess it makes sense why Misa's not overly saddened that Rim is gone, but that kind of makes her death even more tragic. Rim loved Misa and Misa doesn't care. And so it's like, damn, that sucks. Sucks for Rim, sucks for Light, that they had these emotional attachments in the end to these characters that supposedly don't care about them. So there's that. Fun times. Zay Lee talked about that there are some films for Death Note that are live action films, not the Netflix version. Oh, I'm watching the Netflix version. I'm gonna pour myself wine chan or bourbon chan and we're gonna have a fun time with that one. But they noted that there are some live action films that range from 2006 to 2016. There is Death Note, The Last Name, L Change the World, and Light Up the World, which Light Up the World sounds so cheesy. I'm like, womp, womp, womp. So I don't know if I will. I've been told that the Death Note musical is really good. I kind of want to watch the Death Note musical. I'm not usually a musical person, but I'm like, I kind of want to see it because I feel like there's like some BL shit moments that could happen in that, and I'm kind of all about that. So I'm probably going to I'm definitely watching the Netflix version. We'll probably watch the musical. The other 4 films, I will probably do in the spring after I finish the anime series. They may not be like in order and they may just be like sporadic, but I do want to watch them. It'll just depend on scheduling. So remind me of those when we get to the very end of the series. Remind me of those so I don't forget, because I have all my notes in my notebooks, but trying to track down notes after the fact is sometimes hard. But Aaron Corco also noted how L was convinced that Light was Kira, and that he knew that in the next move he made in episode 25, he was either going to solve the case by revealing that Light was Kira, or it was going to result in his death. And either way, he and Light were going to eventually have to part ways because of it, and their friendship would be over. So in episode 25, when he says, this is the last time we'll see each other, it's kind of referring to either of those scenarios, which is really sad. Also, Light having a heel turn after L's death. Yeah, I will say, after episode 25, the endearingness and charm of Light has kind of faded away. And it's, especially in episode 28, reveals that Light is desperate. He's angry the world isn't turning the way he wants it to. Things aren't going the way he had planned. And it's like, wow, imagine that. So I find it hard to feel sorry for Light at this point, especially how he's treated Misa in the last episode, because she's his lackey at this point, and he's horrible to her in that episode. He takes his anger out on her, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. The truck noted that L washing Light's feet, it could be a reference to Jesus washing the feet of Judas, or it could be talking about the sinful woman who is washing the feet of Jesus. So it could either go either way. Either L is Jesus himself in this instance, or he's a sinful woman when he says atoning for his sins, washing the feet of Light, who believes that he is a god. So there's that. And it's like, which is it? And it kind of doesn't matter. It could be both. And I like that the mangaka kind of leaves it up to your interpretation of what you think that could mean. I like that. That's pretty cool. And then Trek noted that Proverbs 14:19 is that evildoers will bow down in the presence of good, and the wicked at the gates of righteousness. And I don't think that proverb necessarily applies to L, but I think the truck and I were talking about it in the comments. I think it applies to how Light views L. He's like, oh, L's washing my feet, so I'm fine with this because he's an evildoer that's bowing down in the presence of my greatness. And it's like, that checks out with what Light's personality is. So that proverb, if Light's thinking of that, it makes total sense. I can totally see that, right? Some dude noted with episode 26 that the recap could have potentially been because the TV station that was airing Death Note changed to a different one, and they probably want to do like a recap maybe so that new audiences switching channels would be like, what is this? And then did that. I think that could be it. I also kind of like the idea that it could be an in memoriam to L, maybe, or the fact that we're transitioning from a new core to another one that's kind of like a necessary recap. That could be as well. Also, if Light has Rim's notebook, he's seen L's name, right? Yeah. So, yeah, Light had to have looked in the notebook to see what L's name was, right? Or maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't. Maybe since L had died, he hasn't looked in the notebook to see what it was. But you think he would have looked. So I don't want to know L's name yet. I know we'll find out, but I want it to happen in context of the show. So please, please, please do not tell me L's name. I want to find out. But it is curious that Light hasn't brought it up. He's just called him L. All right, whatever. We'll see. Julian W. talks about Higuchi, saying that if he gave up the notebook, wouldn't he have died in 13 days? And I was like, yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing, that in the moment, there was such panic in episode 24. There was such panic that I don't know if L was trying to piece together testing the 13-day rule. But yeah, do they think, because yeah, if Higuchi had the notebook taken away, wouldn't he have died in 13 days by Light's rule? Or were they assuming that when you give up possession of the notebook, the rule no longer applies? So, but if that was the case, why didn't Light and Misa just give up the notebook? Then they wouldn't die. So that is a caveat. So I'm like, why didn't L think of that? But maybe he did. And we just don't know yet as the audience. Maybe L did figure that out, but he didn't reveal that to Light and the others because he had a plan. He did send the transmission to Mello and Nier thinking he was going to die. So what all, there's bits and pieces of L's, I can find the right sleeve on the camera, of L's backstory right up to his death that we don't know yet. I'm fully convinced that there's something we're missing. That whole episode felt off. Something was missing. And I feel like by the end of the series, we'll find out what that was. but there's something else to that transmission, something else Elle knew that we don't know yet. So it'll be curious to see what goes down there. We have 9 episodes left. 9. That doesn't seem like a lot, but at the same time, it seems like a whole lot. We're only like a fourth of the way through this final core. I'm calling it a core. Like episodes 26 to 37 is like a core. So it's like the final act. And we're only a fourth of the way through it. There's a lot of content left to go. Akira said on Patreon that John McEnroe is the name of an American tennis player from the 80s. I knew I recognized that name from somewhere. I was like, where have I heard John McEnroe from? It's a tennis player. One of my coworkers was really big into tennis, and they've said that name before, and I was like, oh! So, yeah. And apparently they were really popular in Japan. Who knew? Al Sora talked about how it's a shame that Elle didn't die at the hands of Light. Technically, yeah. I commented back, I was like, yeah, I honestly imagined, like, by the time we hit episodes 35, 36, that's when Elle and Light would have their final confrontation. And I thought that there was a possibility Elle could die around that point, but I thought it would be Light writing in the notebook, not Rim. So the fact that Light defeats Elle, not by his own hand, but by the hand of a Shinigami, kind of like takes something away from it, doesn't it? Sad. But also, Kaylin V talked about in the OP, which I'm going to watch it now. In the OP, there's lots of things that kind of foreshadowing Elle's fate. Like Elle spinning his wheels in the chair. He just keeps eating the snacks and the sweets and, just spinning his wheels. He can't figure out how to solve the case. It's a reference to that. And also carrying over from the first OP, there's Elle on top of the tower and he's technically falling in the OP, but he's kicking and fighting as he goes, meaning that he didn't go down without a fight. I'm on board with that interpretation. And so, yeah. And then Alexander Q finally talked about how Light's dad, she pointed this out and I was like, oh my God, yeah. In episode 26, it's noted that Light's dad is the one renting the apartment for Light. Light's not paying for it. He's a freeloader. Misa, Light is a scrub. Girl, you can do better. Like a TLC playing in the background. Scrub. There's like Mello and Nier like singing in the background. No scrubs. No, Light not paying for his own apartment and having his dad pay for it. No wonder he doesn't want him to die because then he'll have to pay for the rent. Oh, it's great. We're having fun in the absence of Elle, right? I'm coping the best I can, right? I will say this. There were 2 things out of the English dub that came to light. One, the people in the SPK, they really don't think highly of Light as Elle. They were talking all throughout the episode about how Light was being unreliable. And they're like, man, he's been on this case for 5 to 6 years and hasn't solved it. What up? And I think Nier understands that. And he's like, yeah, suspicious. Let's keep tabs on him. So I think Nier thinks that Light is suspicious as Elle because it's just so convenient that the person that killed Elle, that Elle dies and then suddenly the Kira case comes to a standstill. Funny that. So I think that Nier is maybe on to Light, which I hope he is. Do I want Light caught? Yes. Do I think it's going to happen? I'm not holding my breath because it's Light Yagami and he's the protagonist of this story. So we'll see. But my other thing I was going to comment is I said back in episode 24 that Miyano Mamoru did an excellent job portraying Light and doing that sinister, like according to plan line. But I will give this, like Miyano Mamoru is good in episode 28, but Brad Swain, when he yells at Misa in the English dub, I felt that anger. Like that anger, like I felt bad for Misa in that moment because he just lets loose. And his version of Light, the way he talks about Light, it's always like he makes him come across very charming even when he's mad, which helps explain why Misa's so attracted to him because he's just so charming. But in that moment when he yells at her in the English dub, you feel it, and it's like, oh, And Ryuk's like, you're just taking your anger out on her. I'm like, Like, yeah, it is, oof. Yeah, and the fact that Misa heard him say that. Misa's been quietly watching him the last couple episodes, and I'm like, honestly, I'm just going to say it. If Misa ends up killing Light, I won't be surprised if she reads the writing on the wall and she's like, this guy's using me and is going to kill me. Nope. And I won't be surprised, right? We'll see. But yeah, so I got my fudge. I'm channeling Elle. I've got sweet coffee and some fudge. Let's do this. Happy Halloween, y'all. I'm allergic to chocolate. I'm allergic to cocoa, so I can't have chocolate. So this is like caramel fudge. I can do that. But all right. I've wasted enough time. We've wasted 15 minutes. Let's do this. We're going to start episode 29 of Death Note. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's go. R.I.P. Daddy Yagami. What the hell? So I've come to this conclusion that one of two things are going to happen by the end of this series. Right? One of two things are going to happen. Either this is going to go full-blown Shakespearean tragedy, because it's kind of on that route anyway. It's going to go full-blown Shakespearean tragedy, and everyone is going to die by the end of this, including Light. Or Light is going to be the only one left, but everyone around him is going to be dead. And he's going to be all alone. That's my theory at this point. Now, whether or not that pans out, I don't know. But the whole thing at the end for Ryuk, where he was like, well, you know, they say the Death Note brings misfortune, but I guess Daddy Yagami didn't do it, so maybe that's not true. No, I don't think the misfortune was necessarily targeted to Daddy Yagami. It's the fact that Light is the one that's going to end up suffering in the end because he's going to be all alone. His family and everyone's going to die. Like his sister Seiyu at the beginning of this episode, she is like traumatized. She's like to the point where she's in a wheelchair being wheeled around. Like she's traumatized. And the mom, now that their dad has died. But man, Light pisses me off so much in this episode. So much in this episode he pisses me off for numerous reasons, right? For numerous reasons he makes me mad. And I'm like, damn it, you know, I just, And Mello might be dead. I mean, I think there's a 95% chance Mello's dead. Because he, like, had no protective gear on whatsoever. When that explosion happened, at least Matsuda and them had, like, tactical gear on where they could at least deflect some of the explosion. They still suffered a lot of injuries from it, but they weren't shot in the neck like Daddy Yagami. But Mello had nothing, so I'm like, or Mihail, a very angelic name, might I add. Mihail is a very angelic name. I want to look up what Mihail means. I'm going to look them up separately so I don't trigger any spoilers. But Mihail name meaning, look up that. It means Mihail. The name is meaning who is like God. Okay. So Mihail, who is like God, and then Keel name meaning. Keel name meaning is it's let me see, but the Neil, let me see here. Keel is a surname. Does it tell me its name? I want to try to look up what in the world, how does Keel mean? Seems, is it Russian? Okay. Used in there. Does it mean anything? They don't have, I can't find a meaning for Keel, but it seems like it's maybe Russian. Okay, or there's a name. Meaning loving change, enthusiasm, reliability. But that whole Mihail, who is like God. Oh my God. That's the thing. Okay, so my theory that Watari's home for special children is all like, they're all prodigies that he's brought to this house to become like super detectives. But that's the thing. It's not necessarily that they're all successors to L and they're all trying to capture Kira. That's not the case because this house was established long before Kira was even a thing. So we think, right? So we think. So the fact that the episode 1 was called Rebirth means that have there been others that were like Kira in the past and then they all met their dooms? Like, what does that amount to? But at the very least, the Whammy house, we'll kind of just put that up here. In any case, the Whammy house was designed to take in children with high IQs. Children with very high intelligence, right? And I know that's hard to see, so you have to work with me. So basically taking in kids with high IQs. And we find out from here that Mello, his name actually is Mihail Keel. Okay, his name is Mihail Keel, and Mihail means close to God. So my theory is that in this series, that the children like Mello, Near, and El are representations of people trying to enact God's justice, I guess would be the way to go about it, because in all honesty, I mean, the idea is that you're supposed to if you follow Christianity, the idea is that you do not pass judgment over others. That's God's job to do. You just be nice to people, but you don't pass judgment upon them. And I guess you could transpire that and be like, well, people arrest people and commit them to death sentence and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to go into that discussion. But the idea that light wants to become a god himself is in direct contrast to that rule in its entirety. So it's fascinating that you have the idea that maybe Mello, Near, and El and the other children are going to be agents of justice, to enact justice and ensure that society keeps on the right path, and that there aren't people like Light trying to become a would-be god. That would be interesting, right? That would be interesting. But it also ties to Mihail saying who would be God. Because Mihail wanted to be on top. Mello wanted to be at the top. So that kind of ties it too. There's kind of an egotistical angle there as well. But interesting. So let's talk about Daddy Yagami. R.I.P. Daddy Yagami. Oh my God. I'm surprised actually that it took this long. Episode 29. I'm surprised that we're this long into the series and it took all that time. I'm honestly amazed, if I'm being honest. And let's talk about Light. God Light, okay, and his whole plan and everything. The anger, the seething anger in this, right? And then we'll just go ahead and put Mello over here. We'll put Mello there, who's also Mihail. And I'm going to put, just for good measure, Sidow. Sidow, all he wanted was his notebook, and he got it in this episode. All he wanted was his notebook. This little corn husk of a Shinigami. The Shinigami are so bizarre because they just don't care. They're just they're doing their thing, and he's like, okay, well, I just want my notebook. Can I have my notebook back, please? That's all he wants. His English dub voice is actually really cute. I'm like, okay. But yeah, we go to this house, which I'm sure is a rehabilitation center. It looks like one of those calming, nice places that you go if you need to go to rehabilitation, and just it's a calming, soothing environment, which I'm like, girl, she is just it's good to get some sun every so often. She's just completely wrecked. I don't blame her. She's just completely torn up. But yeah, so we established that Seiyu is in a rehab center. Her and her mom are going to be a mess, right? Want to make note, Light's not there hanging out with his sister. He's too busy getting it on with Misa. Just, he's out there, not having, seeing his sister. Maybe he's seen his sister in his off time. I can't say that he hasn't seen Seiyu, but do we really think that he has? But yeah, Chief Yagami standing there wondering, okay, what do I do? Did I do the right thing? And if you notice, he's wearing the red vest. It's very similar to the red jacket that Light wears. It's interesting. But I'm saying, what in the world do I do now? He's like, my daughter's safe, but she's clearly traumatized. What do I do? And I find it interesting that we have the leaves spiraling over his head. And then in episode 27, when we first met Mello and Near, there were the leaves coming off the tree to show a passage of time, right? Which is rather interesting. But yeah, Father. Yeah, as soon as I saw the episode was named Father, I was like, ooh. I thought it was either going to go one or two ways. It was going to be about Daddy Yagami, or it was going to be about the king of the Shinigami, and he's the father of the Shinigami. That's kind of where I thought it might have gone, but no, this is all about him. And then we cut to Ryuk just looking at them apples. He's just like, I really want one of them apples. I was like, Ryuk, nobody's stopping you. I'm surprised Ryuk had enough self-restraint to not eat the apples already. I really thought he was going to. I was like, oh, come on, Ryuk, you could do it. And then there's Sidow. And he's like, oh, shit. And he immediately goes on the defensive. He's like, oh, who are you? Oh, Sidow. Fancy meeting you here. He's like, why are you here? And Sidow's actually quite tall. He didn't look very tall in the Shinigami world, which makes me think there's some really freaking big Shinigami, because he's the same height as Ryuk. Maybe a little shorter. And then he's like, why are you following me? And he took the apple with him, which is cute. He's like, don't follow me. And he's like, I want my notebook back. And Ryuk's like, yeah, I figured that's why you're here. Oh my god. Also, time in the Shinigami world must pass by quite slowly because he just now is noticing his notebook was missing, and it's been like 6 years since Ryuk took it down to the human world, and he's just now noticing it was gone. So time must pass very differently in the Shinigami world. And I like that Ryuk's like, well, things have gotten complicated, so I don't know where it is now. I'm like, things have gotten complicated is the understatement of the series. And it almost seems like there's not anything really under Sidow. He's like, that's really irresponsible. And Ryuk's like, I'm not exactly known for being responsible. I love that he just hovers over the trash can. He's like, why are you still following me? And he's like, give me my notebook back. Like, he's very persistent. And Ryuk's like, well, I don't know where it is, so just go find it. If you want it back, go look for it. So I honestly thought that they were going to use Sidow to find the notebook, that they were going to use him to find it. I really thought that was the case. And they kind of end up doing that in the weirdest way, right? They kind of end up doing that. And then we see Whammy's house. It wasn't simply an orphanage, but it was an institution for brilliant children. Yeah. And Light's best look in this series is the red jacket with the black shirt underneath. That's his best look by far. Best drip. So yeah, it was an institution for children with high intelligence. To raise them to become the second L, or L's successor. I hate that they call him L. I really do. I hate that they call Light L. It's ugh. But yeah. And so Light's like, L's successors. Okay. So the boy who ranked at the top was a boy called Near. Who ranked at the top. And he's like, Near, that would be in. Okay. So he's figured out. So he knows that in equals Near. And he knows that Mello, his name is Mihail Keel. So he knows that much by the end of the episode. He knows that Near is truly, it's like Near, Mello is ranked right next after him. Okay. And so Light's like, okay, Near is L's successor. There's no mistake, which makes sense. He's known him long enough to realize this. He's like, and he's commanding the SPK. So he's like, Mello probably wanted to become L's successor, which is kind of true, but it's like he didn't want to become L's successor enough to work with Near. So it's like Light kind of guesses what's up, but there's more to it than that, right? There's more to it. And the thing about it that's kind of frustrating is that Light doesn't seem to take into account like their feelings for L, because Mello seemed to really care about L. He cared about him, about his death and everything, and he was like, well, L promised me he'd kill Kira. So it's like Mello had an emotional attachment to L. And Near doesn't seem to have that, but we don't know enough about Near. But Light is like, oh, they just wanted to become his successors. It's like, no, Light, not everybody is a psychopath like you. So he's like, He's like, if that's the case, then Mello would probably want to use any means necessary to get the notebook before Near. Which is true. Yes, that is true. He did want to defeat Near and get the notebook before him. That is very true. So he's not off in that regard. I also want to make note that Light looks a lot older in this episode. He does look more mature than he has in the past. I don't know if it's just the way he's drawn or how it works. So Mello is convinced that Near is involved, and he's certain that he is. So yeah, both of them, both Mello and Near, know each other is involved in the case, and Light's kind of in the middle of them. So they have this sketch, that these are sketches of them. There's no photographs of them. Want to make note that these are sketches. They are not the actual portrait of them. So I was trying to think about it, and it didn't hit me until after I stopped the discussion. I was like, well, why doesn't Light just get out the piece of notebook paper and write his name in it and see for himself? But a sketch is not enough. A sketch isn't enough to kill him. He actually needs to see his face. So he can't kill Mello because he doesn't have his face. Now, if you had just hooked up a camera in Daddy Yagami's face mask, this would have all been, solved. But Light was banking that his father would kill him. And we'll talk about that. But so he really can't kill Mello because he doesn't have his face. He hasn't seen him. So if Mello is alive by some chance, if Mello somehow survived that explosion, then he could still be at large, and Light has no way to kill him yet because he hasn't seen his face. So there's that. But that's fascinating. He's like L's successor. And then we see he's like, I'm still fighting L. Yeah, and we see the two of them there, and they're kind of a blend of L. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, Light is under the assumption that now he is fighting L in two forms. So of course he wants to take them down step by step, and Mello is the primary target because he has the notebook. I like that Light is just like, he's so excited. He is like ready to get that Amazon package. He is like ready to go. He's like, I have to figure out where Mello and his Mafia associates are located. And so I've had Misa check a list of wanted Mafia members with her Shinigami eyes. So is it a little bit creepy that Light's just like standing over her, watching her as she's like laying on the couch looking these up? He could have been sitting in the chair next to her. He didn't have to be forebodingly standing over her like a creepy guy possessing her. We'll talk about this. But yeah, he's still in the same outfit from earlier that day. So he had Misa look up the Mafia member with the notebook. Which, it makes sense now. At first I was like, well, why didn't Mello just use the notebook? But they thought that the rule about the 13 days was real, so he didn't want to use the notebook himself. He wanted to have somebody else use it to test it out. So I'm like, okay. And she's like, oh, there's someone whose name I can't see. Jack Nyland. He's number 105. But I can't see the lifespan left. And so he's like, with the death note, I made Snyder send a letter to tell me where his hideout is before he was going to die. And it should be coming soon. So, yeah, okay. We need to talk about this scene with Misa in the skimpy lingerie. Ugh. So Misa gets the letter with his address of Snyder, to locate the hideout where they're at. And she's all ready to go when he shows up to get it. She has like on the leather corset and the panties and the lingerie. And she's like, I've got a letter. And she's like, here you go. And then there's the Los Angeles address. And he's like, I did it. I completely surpassed both of them. I want to get a picture of that. He's like, I completely surpassed both of them. And he's like, he shows like all the address, like where it is. Like sends it to him. I'm definitely the strongest as long as I have the death note and Misa's eyes. So Light he is pleased as punch. He has got like such a God complex heart on right now because he is fully believing that he is the victor with the death note and Misa. As long as he has those two under his thumb, he cannot lose, right? Because he's got all the pieces, all the tools that he needs. So, yeah, I mean, Misa it's mainly the Shinigami eyes, but God, Light. And so then, like, they put in, like, they basically burn up the address, and then Light's, like, standing there by the fire, and she's like, I've been a big help, haven't I? And he says, yes, I love you, Misa. Like, I'm like, I can't, because does Light truly love Misa? No, he does not. He's using her. And in order to keep her under his thumb, he's like, I'll let you put your arms around me and make out with me, I guess. I'll let you be all up on me in this skimpy lingerie, I guess. You know, he's like, yes, I love you, Misa, because you did what I asked you to. And then Sidow's just like, hey, what's up? And the scary thing is, they can't see him. So he just, like, gets up and is like, I just want to see that address. You guys are weird. Okay, bye. Like, yeah, they didn't even know he was there. Now, Ryuk, we don't know. But, yeah, and she, like, basically makes him make out with her. Ugh. I was wondering if like they did have any like intimacy between one another, and I guess they do, but it kind of just feels dirty and wrong because Light doesn't love her. He just is using her. And so it just feels icky. Feels scummy. I don't like it. But yeah, I'm like, he had way more affection for Elle and he killed him, so you know. So then Sidow's like, okay, I am off to go find this notebook, and he does so. And so Mello's like, he's like, I'd like everybody to see me so I can talk to them. And he's like, He's like, the owner is Snyder, so I'll go give it to, so I'll touch him, and then, okay, then I'll have to make him touch the notebook. I'm curious why Mello didn't see him to begin with, because Mello had the notebook. So I'm curious why he didn't see Sidow to begin with. And he's like, oh, we plop. I just love it. Mello's like, what the fudge? He just takes it with his little creepy mantis arms. Now, okay, the Mafia man that says, Mello's like, the notebook moved on his own. The Mafia man's like, well, it's a notebook that can kill people. I wouldn't be surprised if it were alive. That is like the most self-aware, smart thing that any side character has said in this show so far. I was like, yeah. This guy's like, it's a notebook that kills people. Why are we surprised that it can move on its own? I'm like, that's actually really smart. I'm like, yeah, why are we surprised? That's the best thing that's been said by a side character this whole series. I was like, yeah, that's really true. And so then, yeah, he figures out, and they all freak out and see him. He's like, have them touch the notebook now that you've seen me so that they can see me as well. And yeah, they all freak out, and of course they try to shoot him, and that doesn't work. But he's like, okay, nope. And so Mello's like, wait. They're like, oh, this Shinigami's real. It's like, no shit. He's like, he looks like he's telling the truth. So meanwhile, they're at the Rooster Hotel. So they're still in America, right? He's like, I'm going to relinquish ownership of this notebook. Follow the person who I give it to. This whole plan, again, Light is a genius. And Light's plan is nearly flawless. Nearly flawless. But damn. I got so mad in this episode. So mad. Because, I mean, on the one hand, I guess I'm not mad in a sense. When we get to it, I'll talk about it. But I was so pissed off. But yeah, so Light's plan is that he has... Because right now, he has two... There's different notebooks. Right now, let's keep track of the notebooks here. So Mello has Ryuk / Sidow's notebook. That's who he has right now, okay? So, Ryuk still has his notebook as far as we know. Light is relinquishing... So let's put it this way. Mello and Sidow end up with the original notebook that Ryuk dropped. So that one's gone. I'm glad we got that out of here. That notebook's no longer in the picture. Bye. So the notebook that he gives Ryuk, I am assuming, is Rim's notebook, right? Is Rim's notebook. So he takes Rim's notebook and gives to Ryuk. Okay? Right? Correct? Are we correct there? I think so. And then Misa has Misa's notebook that's in her possession that was buried, the one that was buried. So Light relinquishes, we're going to put Light, he relinquishes the rights to Ryuk. So he no longer has that notebook. He's like, won't you lose your memory if you do that? And he says, Misa, lend me your notebook. So he grabs the notebook that was, now that one, yeah, he's like, if I do this, I won't lose my memory, even if I relinquish the notebook. I'm like, why does he have to stick it down his pants? Why? Why couldn't he just like, does his dick have to touch it to remember? Is that how this works? I'm like, why does he have to do that? Why does he have to stick it in his pants? Why can't he just hold it? Why does his pelvis have to touch it? He's like, I won't lose my memory even if I relinquish my ownership. Because I guess he had touched Misa's notebook before as well. So it's just playing a game of hot potato at this point. right? He did have the memories still, so he's not going to do that. So he's like, I'll take this with me. And then he says, I'll give you as many pages as you need. From now on, you'll be Kira. Can you do that? So Misa, she gives her notebook to Light to hold. He doesn't take the possession from her. He doesn't have a notebook. So Light has no ownership. He has no ownership, but he still can keep the memories because he has in possession hers, which is connected to it, right? So Misa has become Kira by extension. How convenient that Light's no longer Kira. It's Misa. And he's like, can you do that? And she's like, well, that's fine, but what are you going to do? If I'm Kira, what are you going to do? And he's like, I'm going to explain this. And mistakes will not be allowed. How nice of you, Light. But also mistakes did happen, so okay. So meanwhile, we have Sidow, who has decided that he likes chocolate. Again, Elle and Mello have a sweet tooth. The Shinigami have sweet teeth. Is there a connection there? I don't know. But Sidow likes chocolate, just like Ryuk likes apples. Curious. I wonder if maybe Sidow will try to find Mello after all this and be like, you got any more chocolate, kid? I want some more chocolate. Like, maybe he'll go find Mello's body being like, you got a chocolate bar on you? You can spare? So they basically explain that the rule at the back of the notebook isn't true. That they're like, he explains that the 2 rules are fake in the back. Now, his theory is that it was probably a Shinigami playing a prank. He says a Shinigami probably wrote that as a joke before giving it to a human to play a prank on them, suggesting that the Shinigami are tricksters, right? But Mello is like, no. Mello's like, wait a minute. He's like, the fake rules are an alibi. They're an alibi for anyone to get out of suspicion. Now, the one reason I think that Mello is not dead or found some way to transmit this information that he found out to Nier, maybe, or he had it set up to where if something happened to him, it would transmit to Nier. We don't know for sure. But why would the story reveal that information to Mello and then nothing come of it? Right? Why would we go to the lengths to have Sidow? Because Sidow didn't have to do that. He didn't have to tell them that those rules were fake. But I feel like as a narrative decision, as a mangaka, why would I have that be put out in the open and be revealed if I wasn't going to do anything with it? If Mello is just going to die in like the next 2 chapters. That seems like a waste of potential, right? So I think that there is a chance that Mello's alive, maybe barely by the skin of his teeth, but there's a chance he could be alive. And then he knows that knowledge that there's a fake rule, and he knows it could be a way for Kira to have taken advantage and to have used it to his advantage, right? That he's like, wait a minute. He's like, we can disprove the 13-year-old by using a single person. He's like, the problem is whether this notebook had passed through Kira's hands or not. If it has, whether Kira knows the rules were fake or not. And I want to get a picture of him like that. Yeah, where he just looks kind of like he's slowly thinking as he's eating, right? Where he's like, if Kira knows this could be used to his advantage. It's like, yeah, especially the 13-day rule, which lets anyone prove that they're innocent. And so he's like, Sidow, I want you to keep guard outside. And he's like, you can't be seen by humans, so at least you're useful for something. Keep watch. And Sidow is like, this guy's terrifying. Like, for a Shinigami to be terrified of a human, something's up. Something's not right. And for his name to be Mihail, something's up, right? I don't know. I get vibes, right? I get vibes. So Daddy Yagami has been hanging out at this house. Maybe it's not a rehab center. Maybe it's just a house for Seiyu and them to be at, to where they're safe. Like a safe house where nobody can find them. Maybe that's it. But he basically says, this is Yagami. And then Misa says this is Kira. And like the notebook the Japanese task force had in its possession was stolen by criminals, wasn't it? And do you have any proof that you're Kira? And Light's face, like Light's just going all along with it. Like this is all part of his plan. So he has Misa. He has Misa tell Daddy Yagami that they are Kira. And that they know the notebook has been stolen. Right? And so then from there, says proof, now that the notebook has been passed, there's no way I can prove that I'm Kira by predicting killings. But you'll receive proof that I'm Kira soon. Okay. And he's like, it's my notebook. What's the meaning of this? The notebook I'm giving you allows me to know a person's name by seeing their face. Oh, got that? And he's like, calm down and listen to me. And she's typing it in to say, so they say that on November, so it basically says that the notebook I'm giving you is special. They're explaining the ideal without saying the ideal. Like the notebook I'm giving you is special and will let you see names with a face. So explaining, it's their way of explaining the ideal without saying that it's from a Shinigami. Basically, it's trying to cover bases of there. And they say that on November 10th at 11:59 p.m., like right before midnight, they say that on November 10th at 23:59, every Mafia member that I gathered information on is going to die. And from the FBI and other organizations are going to die. And they're like, oh, shit. And he's like, I've already written it in my notebook, so it cannot be changed. I also know where their hideout is. Daddy Yagami's like, oh, shit. I'll send that information along with the notebook. In other words, on November 10th at 11:59 p.m., this is your best chance to get the notebook back. So Kira's establishing that I have another notebook. I've got another notebook with me. So you all need to get that one back, don't you? Which is very weird that they're working with Kira, essentially, right? They are working with Kira, saying that every Mafia member will die and will make an opening for you to get the notebook. So yeah, basically this is Kira confirming to the police, the Japanese police, that not only is that Kira working with second Kira, but that they have two notebooks. And that they have one, but they don't want criminals to have the other notebook. They'd rather have it in the police's custody. So we're going to create an opportunity for you to get it back. And of course, the police are going to jump on the chance to get the notebook away from the Mafia because the Mafia having the notebook is bad. But it also says something that they were willing to work with Kira to get the notebook back, right? That they were willing to work with Kira, right? That was going to be a thing. If Elle had been alive, he would have been like, whoa! Let's think about this for a hot second. But Elle's not there. This is your best chance to get it back. And Misa's saying it. Yep. And then Light's just waiting to see what they're going to respond with. So I was so floored by this plan that I didn't read these other things. So if a person loses possession of a death note, they will not recognize the gods of death by sight or voice anymore. If, however, the owner lets someone else touch his death note, from that time on, the person will recognize the god of death. Okay, so the notebook that Mello and them have is the one that Light first saw Ryuk through. So he can't lose memory of Ryuk. The one that he gave Ryuk to take was Rim's. Well, Rim's dead, so it doesn't matter. He's not going to see Rim again anyway. And Misa has touched the notebook that she has was the one from Jealous, but Ryuk's touched it, and so is she, and so Light touching it allows him to see Ryuk. So yeah, it's just a game of giant hot potato. Okay. And then the other one here says that in accordance with the above, The human who touched the death note and began to recognize the gods of death, sight, and voice will continue to recognize it until the human actually owns the death note and subsequently loses possession of it. So yeah, as long as Misa still has possession of this notebook, he's going to keep seeing it. So Light's just holding on to it. He doesn't possess it. He's just holding it for Misa. Okay. So then there's this part of the plan, right? So at this point, what should we do? If the members of the Mafia are going to die on the day that Kira specified, there would be an opportunity. And God, Light he lies so much in this episode. He's a liar. Ever since Elle has said, have you ever told the truth since you were born? It's like, no. Light is such a liar. Because he's like, well, while I resent the idea of following Kira's plan, it's a good plan. Well, you made the plan. Of course you would think it was a good plan, right? So it's like, ugh. But also, I mean, if they just let all the Mafia members die, then... But I guess Mello would have the death note because he's not a Mafia member, so they couldn't have that happen. He's like, it's a good plan. And then and then Ryuk says that's right. And so then they all see Ryuk. So Ryuk shows up with the notebook. And the person he was meant to give the notebook to was Daddy Yagami. He gave it to his dad. Because he says, but it doesn't do us any good just by knowing when the Mafia are going to die. They're like, Mr. Ide, you know the answer. We'll have the Shinigami follow us, and we'll do the ideal to kill them for sure. Mm-hmm. And so Light is like, and then he's like, I'll do the deal. And everybody seems to be surprised, and they're like, well, wait, what? And he's like, I handed over the notebook to begin with, so it's my responsibility. And the thing of it is that he thought of killing himself. Like, he was so... He felt so guilty. He felt so guilty handing the notebook over that he contemplated suicide. Which is so sad. I'm like, no, Daddy Yagami. And everybody's just like, oh my God. And Light kind of like, he's like, I'll use the notebook to kill the criminals. And after 13 days, I'll die too. So here's the problem with all of that. Here's the thing about that. What would have happened if he didn't die in this episode? Because he was convinced. He said that he would kill the criminals. He would make sure that Mello and the criminals were brought to justice. And then he would wait 13 days to die. So essentially, Light knows in this moment that he's going to have to kill his father in 13 days to make him die. Because otherwise, the rule is going to be proven wrong. And then everyone will know it was fake. So, we'll talk about the death scene of his dad, but I'm going to put a pin on this right now that Light knows that his father's intention was to use the notebook and die within 13 days. After using it, he would use it and then accept his fate. Oh, it's just like, And he's like, if Dad ever writes a name in the notebook, when that happens, then it's done. He's gonna have to kill him. He doesn't say it in this episode. He doesn't say it, but it is implied that that is what was going to happen, right? So November 10th rolls around and it's like 12 minutes before the deadline, right? It is 12 minutes and they're all there. And Light is sitting watching on his computer from the hotel room saying, is everyone ready? And they're all there and ready to go. And so like Deputy Director Light Yagami, it's time to make the deal with the Shinigami. I'm like, the fact that Light was telling his father that he let him make the ideal. I never thought that Daddy Yagami would make the ideal with Ryuk. I never thought that would happen. Oh my God. He's like, it's time that you make the ideal. I was floored that that actually happened. And so he's like, Ryuk, please. And Ryuk's like, I understand. He's like, okay. And then he like gives him the power. Oh, it's so creepy. It's creepy seeing his dad with the red eyes. Mm-hmm. And then Light says, take a look at the photographs of the criminals that I gave you. Can you see their names and their lifespans? And he can. Yep. He says, your signals to go. That one guy's was really short. That one guy's was only 592. He was going to die pretty quick anyway, which is kind of crazy that he was going to die really quick. Your signals to go when their names disappear. And then we see the watch hand like slowly tick by, right? Mm-hmm. And then he waits for it. And then Light's checking his watch too, which is it's just crazy, right? And they're just sitting there waiting for it to happen. And then it hits the right time with a minute to go. And then they all die. Yep. And he's like, we're going in. And so then there we go. And so Mello's like, well, where the hell is Sidow? Where's Sidow? Why is he not here? Why is he not watching over everything? As he's like ripping off the candy bar. He's like, I knew it. I knew Kira was involved. I never thought I'd go this far. My perfect plan isn't ready. So he had a plan. So Mello had a perfect plan. We don't know what that is, but we know that it's there. So what was that plan going to be? And so then he's like, what is Sidow doing? But Sidow can't do anything because Ryuk's like, shh, just sit back and watch. I'm amazed that Ryuk got involved. I'm amazed Ryuk actually got involved with this plan. I'm kind of floored that he did what Light asked him to do. I thought Ryuk was going to be a non-player in all this, but he holds Sidow back from doing anything. I'm kind of amazed that Ryuk actually took an active role in the story 29 episodes in. But here we are. Okay. Who knows? He's like, you'll get your notebook as long as you don't interfere. Maybe that was the only reason Ryuk did it. Ryuk was like, look, you're going to get... Maybe Ryuk was like, look, you're going to keep bothering us to get your notebook unless we finally let this happen and then you'll get it, right? So just let it go. Maybe that was it. Maybe Ryuk was like, just take it easy and then you'll get your notebook. But anyway, Mello is like, screw this. But he sees the death note, but he doesn't go for it. He has the other two guys go for it. He was going to get the explosives ready. That's why he had them get the notebook. He was going to prepare with the explosives for what was to come. So that's curious. I find that fascinating. And so then, then he's like, don't move, and they get shot. But then the notebook, they have both notebooks. So they end up with both of them. Okay, he's like, L, we've captured two of them. We've safely retrieved the notebook. And he's like, we're going back now. And he's like, no, not yet. And then they're like, wait, what? He's like, we haven't found anyone who resembles Mello. He's hiding somewhere in the building. So, if Light had just let them go back, his dad wouldn't have died. So, they got the notebook. They took the notebook back. But Light made them stay to kill Mello. They could have left. Mission accomplished. They got what they came for. The criminals were dead. They could have left with the notebook. Now, if they'd done that, would Light have had to kill his dad? Probably. But no, he wouldn't have had to kill his dad. No, he wouldn't have had to kill his dad. It would have been over. End of the story. No. Oh my God. Yeah, if Light had just let them leave when they got the notebook, if he had just let them walk away, his dad wouldn't have died because his dad was all like, okay, I'll kill a Mello. I'll write the names in the book. and then I'll die in 13 days. But they wouldn't have had to do that, because if he had just let them leave with the notebook, then his dad wouldn't have wrote in the notebook at all, and they could have walked away. Ryuk could have let Sidoh go, and he could have taken the notebook and left, and that would have been the end of it. But Light couldn't let Mello go. And so he had his father go after him. He's like, no, we've come this far. Use caution and hunt him down. Oh, Light, you doomed your dad to die. And so they went in, and they went into the room. And then that's when, and there's an explosion, right? And Ryuk's like, oh God! And him and Sidoh getting taken back, right? And they say it was an explosion, and he says, don't move. I've blown up the 2 entrances. But that was only a warning. I'll blow up the entire building next. He's like, do what I say. And he's like, it's Mello. And so then Daddy Yagami, he says, oh my God, like the light's coming on, and he's got the screen, and then there's Mello standing in front of the screens. And he's like, Yagami, huh? Maybe I should have killed you. Because, yeah, he let him go, right? I never thought I'd be bargaining for the notebook with you again. And he looks at him and sees that his name is Mihail Keel. Yep. Mihail, and he had 502-209 left. Your real name is Mihail Keel. And Mello, oh my God, that look on his face where he's just like, that look. He's like, how did he figure it out? And then Light's like, I did it! I won! It's like, Light, you piece of shit. So they find out his name. It's like, just leave. Get out of there now. You know his name. He's like, give up, Mello. I won't kill you if you surrender. And then, get this part here. So the Daddy Yagami, showing his humanity to the very end. Showing his humanity, being like, look, just come with us and you won't have to die. And Light is like, why are you being stupid? Just write his name in the notebook and kill him. Like it's nothing. Like it's nothing, right? But this is some straight up Saw shit where the guy had been posing dead on the ground. He's like, hurry up and write his name in the notebook and kill him. And he's like, if you'll die if I write your name in this notebook. And Mello is just looking at him with such contempt. Mello is looking at him like he's the worst person in the world. Just like, how dare you? He says, throw down your detonator and raise your hands. Mello just looks like he's ready to throw down. And he's like, okay, you know my name. And you have the notebook. And is the way that his face like just falls where he's like, so I've been bested by you, huh? And he's like, Yagami, don't move. He's like, I only have to write your last name. He wrote Mihail. It won't take a second. And he's like, okay. And then there's just this moment between them. And Light's like, you idiot, just write it. But I'm like, even if he wrote the name down, it would take 40 seconds, right? Even if he wrote the name completely, there's still 40 seconds you have to wait for it to take effect. That would have been plenty of time for Mello to detonate the bomb or have someone else come in and shoot him. So Light, it's not just the fact that your dad had some humanity in him and didn't write the name down, was trying to negotiate. It's the fact that you'd still have 40 seconds to wait. Mello could have still killed your dad and taken him out knowing that he was going to die. Still would have ended up being the same thing. So it's like, if you had just told him to take the notebook and go, wouldn't have happened. Wouldn't have happened. And he's like, I'm sorry, I really didn't want to kill you. Yeah, he's like, ugh. And there's a standoff between them. And he's like, Yagami, you've never killed anyone before, have you? Oh, that look. That look. And it's like, no, I don't think that Daddy Yagami had ever killed anyone before. That's the thing. It's just, ooh, I want to get a picture. There's so many good shots of Mello in this episode. If this is the last time we see Mello, he goes out looking real good. But he's like, you've never killed anyone before, have you? And then that guy just like Saul, like comes up out of nowhere. You thought he was dead. And he fires the gun and he manages to hit his neck. Yep, he hits his neck and gets him and knocks him down. Yeah, like he was gonna die. And he's like, Jose grabbed the notebook and he's like, damn, this guy, he won't let it go. And so he puts the mask on, right? He puts the mask on like he's gonna be able to like blow up and everything. And so Jose gets shot. But then Mello's just standing there. And he has the gas mask on. And it's just like, he's looking at him like, okay, this is it, Mello. Like, hands in the air. They don't kill him then either. They still don't kill him either. They could have shot him, but they don't. And he just looks over and he's like, yeah, no. And blows the place up. Now, I mean, 95% chance Mello's dead. But why would he put the gas mask on? Why would he put the gas mask on if he didn't think there was a chance he could get out of there? Why wouldn't he? So I don't know. I think there's a chance that he could have gotten out. No body, no death. Don't know. There's a chance he could have got out. But yeah, the building blows up. And all the communication's out. And they're like, Matsuda, are you okay? And he says, I don't think so. He's okay. I don't see any sign of Mello. Yep. And it's like, and here's the thing, no body, no death! I'm like, if oh my god, if he's scarred up and everything, So, and here's the scary thing. If Mello managed to make it out of there alive, he knows so much now. He knows that Daddy Yagami had the Shinigami eyes, which is going to tie them to light. He knows the 13 rule is a fake. He knows all this shit about the Death Note and about touching it with the Shinigami. He knows all this. So if Mello makes it out alive and goes to Nier and is like, look, we weren't supposed to work together, but do you think we could now? I don't know. If he's like, otherwise we're going to die because this guy's really smart and he's going to kill us. I don't know. But the fact that he got away, it's like, what do we do, right? And he's like, damn it, he got away. How? That's why I told him to kill him quickly. But Daddy Yagami couldn't because he had this humanity. God, it's so sad. Like, it's so sad. So yeah. So then we cut back to the hospital scene. And the thing that pisses me off the most, there's two things that really make me mad about this hospital scene. One is there is so much of light in this scene that it's hard to tell at this point how much Light is acting and how much he genuinely is sad for his father. It's just like when he had the heart attack. There was an aspect of Light that you could tell was really sad about his dad dying. And then there was an aspect that was like obsessed with figuring out L. And it was hard to discern between the two. And now it's really hard to discern between the two. Because he's like, Dad, don't die. And like they're all sitting there. And his dad still has the eyes. And he's like, Light. And he's like, oh, Dad. And he tells him that he still has the eyes. But this is kind of the double-edged sword of this. Is that because Light relinquished his ownership of the Death Note, he's like, I have the Shinigami eyes, and I can see that you're not Kira. He's like, I can see your lifespan. According to that Shinigami Ryuk, I can see the lifespan of those who own the notebook. So, I know you're not Kira. So, he died thinking that Light isn't Kira. There's a part of me that is so mad because I'm like, now all the police force know that he's not Kira. and he knows, and you know that Light planned this out. The reason he relinquished ownership from the start was because he knew his dad was going to end up with the notebook. He knew his dad was going to end up taking the Shinigami ideal, and he didn't want his dad to see that he was Kira. You know that's true. But the thing that pisses me off so much, because that was such a calculated move. But, you know what? On the other hand, the fact that Daddy Yagami died believing in his son and died believing his son was innocent, I'm almost okay with it. Almost. I'm okay with it for Daddy Yagami's sake, because Daddy Yagami has been through so much shit that I'm like, I at least wanted him to die in peace. And the fact that he dies believing that his son was innocent. Now, whenever he goes to the afterlife and realizes that's a bunch of shit, well then Elle's just sitting up there. Elle's sitting up there with his fudge like, so you got played too, huh? Right? Elle's just up there like, what'd I tell you, right? That's a different story. But, it's a different story. But, for Daddy Yagami's sake, I am happy that he died with peace of mind, knowing that he believed his son was innocent and that he had been right the whole time. Because as suicidal as his dad has been and kind of crazy about justice, I'm glad that his father at least died with a clear conscience, believing his son was innocent. What makes me mad is the fact now the police believe that there's no way Light was Kira, and it just, Light lied, and he's full of shit, and it just, that part sucks. He's like, I'm really glad that you're not. And Matsudou's over there with his neck brace, like, of course you were still worried about that? Which says a lot that his dad was still convinced that his son could have been Kira. And Light's like, well, don't say anything unnecessary like that I know is a lie. And then this part here where he's like, well, that's important, but there's something even more important right now. Light, in the end, God, Light, your father is dying in front of you because of something that you potentially did. Your father is dying, and he says that, oh, well, it's important that my dad knows I'm not Kira. But Mello is still alive. He's like, hey, Dad, I know you're on your deathbed and that you're possibly about to die in 5 minutes, but do you think you could do me a solid and write this guy's name in the notebook so I have another piece of the puzzle out of my way? He's like, there's something important right now. He has to write Mello's name in the notebook. And he's like, I'm sorry. Like, his dad's trying to talk to you as he's dying. He's trying to, like say that you love him. He's like, in the end, I couldn't kill him. Which is, yeah, his dad is a kind person. His dad has humanity and knows that it's not right to kill people. He's like, it might not be good to say it's not too late here. I'm like, I was like so freaking out in that moment. I was like, Light, I hate you right now. Like, you tell your father you love him. Tell your father you love him. He's about to die. Why are you worried about this? He's like, no, it depends on how I do it. At a time like this, I can be distraught to a certain extent. He's acting so much in this scene. Like, Light, as he's put on so many personas, and he's become just a walking lie. Like, there's no truth left in him or true self. Kira has he's been so corrupted by the power that Kira has granted him, that by the power that Death Note has granted him in becoming Kira, that he can't have an honest to God moment with his father before he dies. He's more concerned about how to try to manipulate his dying father into killing Mello so that he can have one loose end completely wrapped up. I'm like, Light, you're intelligent. You'll figure all that bullshit out later. Your dad is dying. And then he takes out the notebook and he's like, Dad, write his name. Just write his name with the last of your strength. Like, it's like the last thing he does. And he even holds his hand. He's like, you can't just let him beat you. I'm like, it's your fault. He's here. And his dad doesn't. And he's like, Dad. And he dies. And he says, Light. And then that face that Light makes. Oh. Yeah. And then he's gone. And the doctor's like, well, that was weird. The doctor's like, well, I don't know about these notebooks. And he's like, your dick's son's over here trying to get some guy to get writing down this notebook. I would have told my dad I loved him before he died. But, write a guy's name in a notebook. I guess that works too. Oh my God. And he's just like, I'm sorry. And then he's like, Dad. And he's like, don't you die, you idiot. Oh. And the sad thing is that don't you die, you idiot. He's like, it's almost like he's not saying don't die because you're my dad. It's like, don't die because you didn't kill Mello. And your plan wasn't flawless. And of course, Matsuda and all them are sad. And they, are sad that Chief Yagami died. And they think Light's like crying out of compassion. And it's like, no, Light he's mad because he didn't get his way in the end. Or maybe he did care about his dad. We can't know for sure because he's a liar. So they end up giving the death note back to Sidow. They all see Sidow. And they're like, oh shit, this guy, this husk of corn. And they're like, you're the Shinigami who came to take this notebook back, right? And he's like, yes, give it back. He's like, I've gone through a lot of trouble. And he's like, even if it benefits the Kira investigation, we only need one of these notebooks. Yeah, he's like, well, we've got one of our own now, so it's fine. Kira's notebook, Kira now. But here's the thing. By having two notebooks, are they establishing that now Kira doesn't have one? Are they establishing Kira doesn't have a notebook anymore? That's what it seems like. It seems like they're establishing that Kira is without a notebook. So what do we do about that? How are they going to justify that? Are they going to say Kira has a third notebook that they've been hiding all along? How are we going to justify that? Because, yeah, if Kira technically is without a notebook now and they don't kill within 13 days, they'll die. So, problem solved, right? Kira will be dead and gone, right? Isn't that the end of the story? So Sidoh takes his notebook back and he's like, okay, peace out, bye. And Ryuk's like, okay. And he's like, those who use the notebook are cursed with misfortune. Well, it's not as if Soichiro actually used the notebook. He died believing his son isn't Kira, so I guess he was happy. Yeah, it's not Soichiro who had the misfortune. It was Light. Because, yeah, if Soichiro really did have misfortune, that's a good point. If he really did have misfortune, he would have died knowing his son was Kira, which was his worst nightmare, right? But he died in peace, believing his son wasn't Kira. And instead, we have Light under the moon, fitting enough, suffering the first misfortune of losing his father. And he's not smiling there, right? I'm sure Light will find a way to spin this, but he's not smiling in that moment. Oh my God. Oh my God. So, yeah. Oh my God. So, yeah. I don't think Mello's dead yet. For some reason, I don't think Mello's dead. I think narratively, there's been enough revealed to Mello in this episode, and they couldn't find his body. I think he's still alive. I think Mihail is still alive. And Light, he can't kill him because he didn't see his face. He has a sketch, but it's not enough. He needs to see his face, right? He doesn't know if he looks any different than he does in the sketch, so he can't rely upon it. So Mello could be alive. My theory is that Mello is going to be like, shit, I was bested by the Yagami chief. His son might be involved. I need to go find Nier and team up with him to take Kira down. That's what I would do if I was Mello. If I was Mello, I'd be like, let's let bygones be bygones and work together. Because Nier didn't seem to have a problem with it before. He was like, yeah, sure, let's work together. I think he'd be fine with it, but we'll see, right? So I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. But now that I'm very curious on a number of things, right? So I'm curious about if Mello will go to In for help and they'll try to like team up against Light. What are they going to do? Does Kira, according to the police, have a notebook now? Because technically one of the notebooks went back to the Shinigami and the other one they have in custody. So Kira shouldn't have a notebook, right? So isn't Kira going to die? Isn't that going to be the end of it? Right? Isn't that how that's going to work? And then Daddy Yagami is dead. R.I.P. And then Sayu and the mom are probably going to be in shambles. So there's that. But yeah. And so all the Mafia members connected to the notebook are dead. And we didn't really get much of Nier in this episode to see what he thinks about all of this. We didn't get much of Nier in this episode, so I'm assuming next episode is going to be the aftermath and how Nier handles it. So that part's going to be interesting. But yeah, Daddy Yagami. Daddy Yagami is gone. I'm really sad that he's gone, but I've felt really bad for him this entire series. I was like, he has had to suffer through a lot. So the fact that he dies in peace, as messed up and manipulated as it was, I'm kind of glad that he's no longer having to suffer through this story. He does not have to suffer any longer. God. But yeah, what now, Light? How's your daddy gonna pay the rent? You're going to have to pay it yourself now. God, Light. At this point, I'm not surprised things went Light's way because he's really smart, but I'm not a Light Yagami fan. Not at this point, no. No, especially after the acting that he does in this episode. No. So yeah, what can we do? But in any case, I am curious to know your thoughts down below. Please, no spoilers, no hints, no clues. If I'm right or wrong, don't tell me. I'll find out. We have 7, we have 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. We have 8 episodes left of this series. And where it goes to from here, I don't know. Mello could be dead and then we have to get rid of Nier. So what do we do about that? But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll be back next week with episode 30 of Death Note. Bye.